Hello.
Hello, AI voice robot. Can you help me with the opening of my podcast?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Well, at the beginning of every one, there is a phone call that sets up what we're going to talk about.
Okay. Hey,
And I don't have
phone
anybody to
ringing
call
noise.
this week.
Hello. Telephones have been in wide use since Alexander Graham Bell
No,
first
that's
introduced his
okay.
invention in 19.
I need a telephone call. No, this is for the podcast.
Podcasts can range several topics.
This is not going to work out. All right, should be a fun one today. This is from back in the day when there were no video cameras in everybody's hands. Everybody just had a good time. And back then we were allowed to have a good time. Talking about concerts that we went to in the 80s, early 90s. And I've got Eddie with me today because over the years, Eddie and I have shared several concert stories with each other. Jed, our co-host here, wasn't a big concert guy. And so welcome in, Eddie.
What is his problem? I mean, who doesn't go to concerts?
Jed is just one of the coolest dudes I know, but he has just never been a big music guy. Well, he is. He loves listening to it, but he developed that aversion to crowds that I have now, that most of us have,
Right.
at an earlier age than we did.
So he figured it out sooner than we did.
Yeah, like he could listen to it. He could buy a CD for $12 and pop it in, or he could go stand, get beer spilled on him, and be in the hot sun. And so, he got there before we did.
Imagine, if you will, if we were to take all the money we've spent on live music and have invested it in a mutual fund between the ages of 17 and 25. Oh, the money we would have right now.
Rich, I think Jed probably did, which means he's going to be like Spicoli and have Van Halen at his birthday party.
Yeah, well, good for Jed.
Yeah, great for Jed. And great for me. I'm his buddy, so I get to go. So I talked to Ross Wood, who worked at the Diamond Ballroom. His grandfather actually owned the place and built it. And he was telling stories of the different bands that came through the Diamond. Well, one of them I stopped him on. It was Skinny Puppy. And I said, dude, I've got the story of all stories about those guys. It's not even really about them.
I've never even heard of Skinny Puppy.
Skinny Puppy was a Canadian industrial kind of punk thrash. They were terrible. Let's just get to it. They were a bad Marilyn Manson before Marilyn Manson was a bad Marilyn Manson. But there were a couple of them. And so they just got on stage and yelled. He described the crowd at the Diamond as, he said, we sold no beer. But there were just a bunch of these white-faced, trench coat wearing misfits. And I thought, well, you probably could have sold a lot of piercings and razor blades and Xanax, but I guess you have to get, have, not just your liquor license, but you have to have other things for that. So anyway, the mechanical bull and the cowboy hats weren't being used that night at the Diamond. So I decided I had free tickets to see them. I think it was the Zoo Amphitheater in Oklahoma City. I'm not sure. Although the Zoo Amphitheater is just the greatest concert venue I have ever been to. It's intimate. It's all GA seating. I'll get to that later.
Okay.
My best memory there was I saw REO Speedwagon there, and Cronin yells out to the crowd, the rock star thing, "Are you ready to rock?" And right then, this elephant from the distance just trumpets really loud, like because it was the zoo, and the whole crowd laughs, and the band looks over like, "Well, he is." So I'm at this outdoor concert for Skinny Puppy, and then there's a lot of other crappy bands of the same kind of genre there. So, like I said, I got free tickets, so I went just to go and just to watch the people. Brother, was I ever right? So I'm there and kind of sitting. They had railroad ties every 15 feet or so, graduated up. It's kind of like a bench. So I'm sitting on that, and there's this dude. And I used to tell this story, like there was this old guy in his 50s, which that's me now.
Oh, gosh.
He is in a terry cloth red onesie with the feet sewn in. I think he had his hands free. I don't think they were mittens.
Was there a flap in the back?
Trap door in the back.
Oh my gosh.
The whole dude's walking around, looks like a Teletubby before there were Teletubbies. And he's got, pot belly. He's in this onesie like a toddler. I'm sure there were buttons on the legs so his diaper can get changed. So he's there, and I'm like, all right, yeah, he's ready to rock. And he had a little cooler with him. And so I'm listening to this terrible, terrible band. And it's just like Ross described in the Diamond episode, where it had a video behind them and it's showing like gore movies and autopsies. And it's terrible. And it's theatrical. And it's theatrical like Ozzy without the talent and without the great music. And so I just watch it like all of these different colored hair and the safety pins and noses and the mohawks. And again, I didn't see a single beer sale there, so they were disappointed. As these people are just standing around. So my boy there in his onesie is just rocking out. You remember Matt Pinfield from MTV?
I do.
He kind of looked like an older version of him. Kind of a cross between Matt Pinfield and who's the guy that had the wallet, the white wallet, the writer about that murder in Kansas?
Truman Capote.
He looked like a cross between Matt Pinfield and Truman Capote.
Wow. That's very specific.
Yeah. Well, this night is seared into my mind. So onesie is there just rocking out, and sometimes he would run in place, and sometimes he would just like head bob. But every once in a while, he would reach into that cooler and pull out a horny toad. Now, you're originally from Ohio, grew up in Tennessee. You may not know exactly what this is. It's the mascot for Texas Christian. It's not a frog, but they call them horny toads. It's a horned lizard. And literally, it's what it sounds like. It's got horns all over it, and they are. When I was a kid in Central Oklahoma, they were everywhere, all over the prairie, the grasslands. You go out there, and they just run everywhere. I don't see them as much anymore out there, but he had a whole box of them. Because they wanted to go to the concert.
Did they not check the coolers before people come in?
I didn't think they even allowed coolers in there.
Okay.
But if there's two schools of thought on this. If you see Truman Capote coming in his onesie with his container, come on in, bud. Like,
yeah.
I
understand that. It makes total sense to me.
Yeah, but then there's the over officious, guys, I didn't check your containers. After about, I'd say the first half of that crowd showing containers, I just, come on in. Bring your iguana. bring your weird looking pentagram and your sage. Just come on. And so Matt Pinfield's there in his onesie, just jamming out. And he reaches in and he grabs a horny toad. And our eyes meet. It's like, horny toad. And he pulls it out and puts the lid on because he's got friends in there. Holds up this horny toad and squeezes it and bursts that animal in his hand.
How far away are you from this guy?
About 10 feet.
Oh my gosh.
And he slings it out of his hand like onto the grass. And and then wipes it off on his onesie leg. And he's like, yeah. He's just rocking out to terrible music. And I'm like, I bet you I didn't see that right.
Yeah, no, because no one takes a horny toad to a concert and destroys it with one hand.
You could have stopped
and then rocks out.
You could have stopped that sentence at any point. No one takes a horny toad to a concert.
Okay.
No one takes it out of its container. No one holds it up in triumph and squeezes it to death and then flings it to the ground. So I think, okay, I'm probably not going to meet anybody here to hang out with. I'm not here for that. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna watch the show, and so I'm not going to stay there long because this is not my crowd. But I'm there long enough to watch Penfield in his onesie, and so it's 10 or 15 minutes later. Brother reaches back into that cooler, pulls out yet another horny toad. Is like holds it up in the air. Well, and he lets this guy ride for a little bit, like shaking it. And horny toad's like, please squeeze me to death.
Yeah, let's do this now.
He's listening to that music. He's being held up in that crowd, looking at that mass of humanity. That horny toad is like, brother, please do this. And so he did. Busts that horny toad, flings it to the ground, wipes it off his pants, and turns around, looks at me, yeah, while he's still dancing. And I'm looking around, and I'm sure other people see this. So a couple of things occur to me. One, that's not uncommon because no one else even raised an eyebrow. And I don't know that there weren't other horny toads there in other little igloo coolers. And so I want to leave, not because I'm disgusted by anything, it's because I'm bored at this point. But I don't, because what else is in that cooler? Well, I found out what else was in that cooler. Another horny toad.
Oh my gosh.
He reaches in and gets a third one, holds it up, and I said, hey, dude, what are you doing? And he turns around and says, man, sometimes you just got to hold up a toad. And he squeezed it in front of me. And like, at that time, yeah, I guess so. And then there's another guy that walks up. He's coming up from like further down in the bowl there. And he reaches up casually and kind of high fives onesie. Like it's like a social group, like within this crowd. The guy that high fived him wasn't wearing a onesie. He had on bib overalls that were painted, like spray painted. And I had on jeans and boots and a concert shirt with a button-up shirt over it, and I was wildly overdressed for this concert. So, look, I'm not saying this to disparage the Zoo Amphitheater. It's one of my favorite places ever to see a concert, but it's a shame that more people didn't get that.
Just imagine the cleaning crew afterwards when they're going through picking up all the trash, and how many?
I think they just. Yeah,
good gracious,
that's true. Hey, Brian, do we pick up these carcasses or just kind of leave them? I don't know.
I have.
This is not
no concert story to top that one.
This is not the kind of trash they had after Wayland.
Well, what kind of trash did they have after Wayland?
Probably not disemboweled horny toads. I mean, I don't know. Cigarette butts, beer cans, and
cans of Copenhagen.
Yeah, that's about it.
That's it.
That's probably more my crowd, but not my. It's one of those things. My dad used to describe. He was in the army. He was in Korea. He used to say, "I'm glad I did it, but I would never do it again." I feel you, Pop.
Yeah. Wow, what a great story.
Yeah, man. But back then, the stories. I mean, I was very fortunate to have lived in that era, being a live music fan. I saw Van Halen. I mentioned REO Speedwagon. I've seen them probably 10 times. I saw them one time. I took a girl from my speech class, a girl named Anne-Marie, real sweet girl, lived on the other side of Moore. I took her to see REO Speedwagon at the fairgrounds, at the grandstand. and it was, I didn't know that Gary Richwath wasn't with the band anymore, or I would have rioted.
Oh,
I would have
gosh.
found horny toads to squeeze. So he wasn't with the band. It was their first time out without him. At least the drummer, Gratzer, wasn't with them. I think Richrath was on his way out, or he wasn't there. Anyway, I don't know, because the show never happened. We were all there. It started raining. And it's weird because it was springtime in Oklahoma and there was violent weather.
Surprising.
Right. And so the trellis, the light bar on top started swinging, and the wind, and it was picking up. And, you know, it's a bunch of Okies out there like, come on, man, let's play. And so that light bar crashed down on the piano and just smashed it.
Oh my gosh!
It got wild, and so we all scrammed and got out of there. And so I never really got to go to a concert with Anne Marie, which is a shame. But we did go by Sonic and get some hot chocolate on the way home, and I took her home.
Nice. I remember my very first concert. I think this is my girls hate it when I start a story off with this. So I say the year was 1982, and it was. Cheap Trick and Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and I'd never been to a concert before, so I remember I didn't know what to expect, because I know that you and I have been to hundreds of concerts, but that first time you just don't know what to expect, and the lights went down and the people started screaming, and then you saw Bun E. Carlos of Cheap Trick, the drummer, light that cigarette, and then they started right in, and I was like, oh my gosh, it changed everything. It was
was it all black, and then he lights it up?
It was all black, and all you could see.
So cool.
And of course, back then, I'm old now, so I get seats. I don't want to stand for 4 hours. I can't do that.
Right.
But we're all crammed in within, just a couple rows from the front, and it's just right there. It was. I still remember that feeling. It was ethereal. It's crazy.
That is so cool. But you remember the whole experience, though, like standing in line for tickets?
Yes.
I stood in line for tickets at Sound Warehouse on 240 and Penn for Metallica. And there was a fight, the stupidest fight I've ever seen. This dude's in line, and he said, you probably don't even remember who Cliff is. And this other guy, let's just say piece of crap too, says, yeah, I do. And like they start bickering, like, because we were all there for like a few hours to get these tickets. And I don't even know if it was for Metallica. I think it was for another band. I think they just, two rivals. You have the same mop hairdo and overkill shirt. They're going to have to fight for dominance.
I stood in line for 4 hours to get tickets. This was in Johnson City, but the concert was in Knoxville for the Jacksons. Remember in 1985 when Michael Jackson and his brothers did the Victory Tour? Yeah. And they had that concert at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. So we stood in line for 4 hours in Johnson City to get tickets. And we had the worst seats. You could barely even see Michael Jackson. But at least I can say I saw the Jacksons in concert. So there's that.
That is very cool. I had a string of canceled shows for a while in high school. The REO show that almost happened. I conned this girl into going to AHA, and I didn't want to go to AHA at the
That does not sound like you.
No, it doesn't. At the Civic Center, almost downtown, the west side of downtown, Oklahoma City, and they canceled. Like we didn't even go because like a week or two before they cancel it, which I think relieved both of us. I didn't want to go to the show. She wanted to, but she didn't want to go with me. So we both were like, all right, well, we were close.
I sometimes get AHA and Scritti Politti confused. So, I mean, forgive me for that.
I get ABBA and Skinny Puppy confused.
Yeah, right. Oh, you want to know the concert I should not have gone to where I was like, I should not be here. It was Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Oh my God.
It was at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. We walk in, we're just simple country boys from Upper East Tennessee. And we saw things that they just didn't have in East Tennessee in Atlanta. And I mean, they put on a good show, but I only knew the one song, and that was a weird scene.
Well, there was, back then you could go to a concert for $17.50, get a T-shirt for $7,
Right.
and go away with an experience. I've got memories of I saw Skid Row in Denver. I think it was in '91, and we got there early, and it was freezing and snowing because we were in the Rocky Mountains, and it was the wintertime, and everybody's just shivering. And I say to the, I'm this kid from Oklahoma. I say, it's not so much the heat; it's the humidity.
Oh gosh.
And that crowd turned on me like
Oh my gosh.
yelled fire. It was a pretty crummy show, too, by the way.
My wife and I just went and saw the Electric Light Orchestra in Nashville 2 weeks ago, and both tickets for both of us, $320 total. Can you imagine how many concerts you could have saw for that in the 80s and 90s?
First of all, I'm very glad you got to see your favorite band.
It was an amazing show.
On their way
10
out.
out of 10.
That's good. They know that their core audience are no longer 14-year-old kids buying tickets with paper route money or lawn mowing money. They know that their audience is 50-year-old guys that have been fans for years that can swing it. So
right. Well, it was money well spent.
That's good.
Ooh, Eddie Murphy. Does that count as a concert?
Was it a concert?
Well, yeah, it was in Knoxville. It was during when he'd wear that like red leather jumpsuit type thing.
Right.
I guess it was his delirious time.
I think it was Raw, wasn't it?
I don't know, but oh man, there was things. I mean, that's another concert where I saw things that the simple little guys from East Tennessee didn't see, like in the bathrooms at people doing coke in the bathrooms and couples hooking up in the stalls, and I was like, ooh, I just came for an Eddie Murphy concert. So
I just came for the jokes. What are you doing?
Yeah, I didn't know what was that. I was just like, what?
I don't know that I haven't been to a comedy show that was in a big arena. I've never seen a comic that was worth a crap. So,
well, I think it was just, back then there was no YouTube, and if you wanted to see, you either had to buy the comedy albums or you had to go see them live. And I mean, he did have that HBO special, but that was way back in the day. It's so different now because now you've got people putting on stuff on, they can hop a concert or a comedy thing on Netflix just like that.
Well, I used to write. Oh, I still do. I write comedy. And there's a girl I went to school with named Susan Bryant. And she lives out in California, has done really well for herself. She escaped Oklahoma and went out there and made good. And I texted her probably a decade ago. And I said, Susan, do I need to be there if I want to write seriously, if I want to find work, not in stand-up, but writing for stand-up? And she just flat out told me, no, that's an old model. Now the audition stage is YouTube, and put your stuff out in social, and it's just as good as coming out here and a lot cheaper.
Sweet.
So it's kind of the same deal there.
What's your favorite concert of all time?
Oh, boy. Well, you mentioned that your first was seeing Bun E light it up on the stage.
Oh.
My first concert experience of any name, I went to a couple of small like church concerts, Christian bands that went through. My first major concert experience was 38 Special, and Ted Nugent opened up at the Lloyd Noble Center in Norman.
Nice.
And we were a little bit late, and Nugent was already on the stage. We got to our seats, and the first words out of his mouth was, "Hello, Oklahoma. I'm about to rock your balls off."
Wow.
And he did.
Congratulations.
Loincloth, flaming arrow, swinging on the vine. And then 38 Special came out, and that was 38's last big hurrah. They had Strength in Numbers, I think. An album around 1986 had a couple of hits on it, and that was their last hurrah. And it was a really good show, but I was 14. And so they were all good. And Ted was just like this cartoon character on stage. And 38 Special was good. I had been a fan of them. I love Southern rock and have since a kid because of my brother. And so I've loved 38 Special since I was little bitty. And that was neat to get to go to. I saw Stryper in that same building, and they put on a fantastic show. White Snake and Motley Crue, my junior
Oh,
year.
oh wow! I bet you
saw
saw
them.
some things there.
I saw them at the mirror. Well, I didn't see what everybody else saw. David Coverdale, of Whitesnake, he said, of course, "Hello, darlings," from the stage, and everybody's screaming. And he said, "Are you having a good time?" And everybody, yeah. And he says, "Not as obviously not as good as that fella up there." And he points way up to the top, and there's this dude in Congress with a female
Oh, good gracious!
at the top, like, because they thought, well, it's dark up here, nobody's going to see. It's like a huge version of a movie theater. Like, oh, we'll be quiet in the back. Well, they put a spotlight on this dude. Turns out he went to my high school.
Oh, nice.
The next day, I'll just say Greg because it was the 80s. And if you were named Scott, Brandon, Shane, or Greg, you were a solid 80% of the dudes at my class. So
Yes.
nobody's going to know who I'm talking about. But his cousin, I'm walking to the same classroom. I'm walking to the same classroom where I had a speech with Anne Marie, who we saw a piano get destroyed. And he said, "Did you hear about Greg?" "Greg who?" "There's 15 million Gregs here." And he told me the last name. And I said, "A stringy-haired kid from 6th grade?" "Yeah, I know about him. What about him?" "He was caught." Like, he told me the story. "That was him. I was there. I didn't know who it was. I didn't recognize his butt." But,
Oh, good gracious!
oh my gosh. And he just, like, that's the kind of thing that it's right on the premise. It's like, you're this high school legend, or everybody's like, dude, well, how in the world did you let that happen? And it kind of fell towards the second one, which is too bad for Greg.
Too bad. He could have turned that.
I would have found a way to turn lemons into lemonade on that deal. But
What's the worst concert you went to?
let's see. Oh,
Go ahead.
easy. I saw the Smashing Pumpkins with the Red Hot Chili Peppers in Denver.
Mm.
Anthony Kiedis from the Peppers hops out on stage wearing skirt, shorts, whatever, no shirt, of course. And he says, "Hello, Salt Lake City." And the crowd starts booing.
Oh,
And
goodness.
for whatever reason, he decides to not own it or not laugh with the crowd or shrug it off. He uses the exact same rock guy voice and says, "I mean, Denver." Come on. So that was terrible. I saw part of an Aerosmith show before they got it together and got off drugs, where Steven Tyler hit Joe Perry in the head with a mic stand when he was swinging it
gosh.
around. It was awful. My brother is just like Jed. He's been to like 2 concerts, and he grew up in the 70s. Like, hey, man, Fleetwood Mac's playing tonight. Nah. The Zeppelins play tomorrow. Yeah.
Nah.
Well, the Eagles are this weekend. I don't know. All right. Well, Skinner's coming in the next week. Yeah. Dude, what are you doing? So he told me he went to see Journey in, I guess it'd be his junior year when we lived in Memphis. And so that would have been 78. And he said they were terrible. They left.
Wow.
Which,
well, I saw Journey this summer, and they were great, and I stayed.
dude, if he saw them in 78, that means Van Halen opened for him. What are you doing?
And
He's
he's supposed to be the smart one.
I don't understand some people.
Mm.
So what's your favorite show?
I'm gonna sound uncool, but the ELO show I just saw was probably the best technical concert, and the most fun I ever had is I spent a lot of money for front row seats for a Weird Al VIP experience, and it was worth every penny. I had a great time. Now the band I think
Did
that
you hear?
I wanted
Did you hear that?
What?
Did you hear people all over the country turning off this podcast?
Oh, that's great. I wanted to see. I had tickets to see Rush, and it's Rush. I mean, this is one of the classic bands of all time.
Would love to see them.
It was right when they were doing their moving pictures. So it was, I don't know, mid '80s, and they had Y&T open for them. They got this big metal monster thing that comes out on the stage named Eddie, and I don't want to give away too much, but back then I partook of some herbs sometime, and I had a bad reaction. As soon as that monster came out, I started crying. I ran to call my dad. We didn't have cell phones, so I went to a payphone. Couldn't remember my phone number. Didn't have any change. Ended up on the bathroom floor, and then somehow saw the last part of Rush. And so I wish I could have a do-over on that one as a sober man. I think I'd get my money's worth.
When you think of the absolute metric tons of weed that's been smoked, listening to Rush, going to their concerts, and that happened to you.
Yeah, well, that's the story of my life.
What a great, perfect Eddie story.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, do you have any near misses? I do. I have one. I had a buddy call me up and say, "Hey, could you be ready to go in 30 minutes?" What are you talking about? And he said, Guns N' Roses is playing the racetrack there in Dallas, or at Fort Worth. The Fort Worth side of Dallas. Texas Motor Speedway. And he said, "I'll be there in 30 minutes. I got tickets. Let's go." Well, it was the night of an all-star baseball game. And I always watch that with my dad. And I thought, I really want to go to that. But I didn't. I turned him down. I said, "No, man, I can't make it tonight." And so I watched the baseball game with my dad, who looked bored and put off, read the paper part of the time, and I think fell asleep.
Oh, nice.
So I missed out on what would have been a good show. Oh, but I did see Guns N' Roses and Metallica in Denver.
Was it a good show?
Metallica mopped the floor with them.
Oh, wow.
And I'm not a huge Metallica fan at all.
Right.
At all. But I went for Guns N' Roses and left very impressed with Metallica.
I think the closest story I have to a near miss that turned into be a hit was Paul McCartney came to Knoxville a couple years ago, and I went to look at tickets, and they were I was like, so expensive, and all they had left was bad seats. And then I regretted it. I regretted it so much. And then the night of the show, I was just looking at my computer, and they said, "Hey, we've opened up some cheap seats for like $50 each." And I said, "Hey, Lisa, how soon can you be ready to go?" And she said, "About 10 minutes." And I bought them. We went. It was a 3-hour show, and I got to see Paul McCartney. So,
oh my gosh!
Even in I from the age of 14 to now, I'm 58. There's just nothing like live music, and
man, that's the truth. My buddy, my best buddy in high school, we were like brothers. Got him Travis. He went to. He's gone to 2 concerts that I know of. One was Paul McCartney in Memphis, and the other one was like Billy Joel and Elton John in Columbus or somewhere up north.
Yeah.
He's been to 2 shows, and those were it. Like, oh, good Lord, dude! I went to Skinny Puppy and
Air Supply,
the Fabulous T-Birds.
Yeah, I saw them at the Ohio State Fair. Fabulous Thunderbirds, sure enough. I also saw the Stylistics at the Ohio State Fair. They opened for Bill Cosby. And then I also saw the Jets. Remember the Jets?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, saw them at the Ohio State Fair. Oh, my goodness.
The Jets were a poor man's New Edition.
Yes, exactly. Saw Sha Na Na at the Appalachian Fair in Gray, Tennessee.
Sha Na Na played Woodstock.
Yeah.
So, you essentially, by extension, you kind of saw Hendrix.
Yeah, and then a couple years ago, Lisa and I, on a wild hair, went to the Tennessee Valley Fair in Knoxville, KC and the Sunshine Band. And it was so much fun.
I've heard they put on a good show. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. So, it's just live. Like now, I will tell you this: here's someone has given us tickets recently to go see like a Ben Folds or a Gary Clark Jr., and I just didn't make a connection with it. I felt like an imposter, and we left early for both shows.
I get that. Have you seen Frankie Valli getting rolled out to the stage?
Yes, it is fantastic.
That's just terrible. They just have him standing there, and every once in a while they'll move the mic closer to his mouth that he's not opening. It's like, that's terrible. You know,
it is.
But people,
hey, kids got to eat.
That's a good point. You know, I was talking to somebody recently about a lot of the band, like the T-Birds that I saw. A lot of the great old rock bands that I saw were because I've been to so many REO Speedwagon albums that they pulled their carcasses out to open for them. That's how I saw Loverboy, T-Birds, Foreigner, Cheap Trick, all those bands I saw because they opened for not Van Halen, good Lord, no, for REO Speedwagon.
Nice.
I guess my favorite moment of a concert was I saw Alice in Chains open for Van Halen in Denver. It was such a good show. And Alice in Chains was a brand new band. They only had one album out. They had like one hit out on MTV. And so they're playing and they're killing it. And the lead singer, there's no banter, there's no, yucking it up with the audience. They're just out there to play, and they delivered. And the last thing they did is, they waved to the crowd. The lead singer, Lane Staley, he looks at the crowd and he's breathing. He's like been in a marathon, and he says, "You people are breathing effing helium up here." Because it's in Denver, it's an outdoor show. Puts his microphone up, leaves the stage.
Yeah.
I always wondered, why did I never have any money when I lived in Denver? And then I mentioned all the concerts I went to.
One of my bucket lists is to actually get to Red Rocks to see a concert. I don't care who it is. I just have to experience that.
I saw Warrant, Trickster, and Firehouse at Red Rocks.
Nice.
I won tickets. I didn't win tickets. They were giving away tickets. If you went through this parking lot, KBPI, if they put one of their bumper stickers on your car, they'd give you 2 tickets to this show, which tells you it was the waning days of hair metal.
Yes.
I went, and there's this doughy kid from Oklahoma that we parked, I don't know, 45 miles from the place. And me and the guy that lived above me and Travis, a guy named Rich Mensinger, he was in the Army. And so he was used to it. He was a runner. He'd go running at night. We walked and walked up to get to our seats. And then our seats were way up at the top. So I tell you, man, I thought I was going to cough up a lung getting there for Warrant. But it was good. We went there. I've actually been there twice. I went to a sunrise Easter service there that was really cool. But we're at the show. And Warrant was okay. Firehouse was really good. Trickster was this New Jersey band that had 1 or 2 hits is all. The lead singer's running across the stage, and he's about to jump on this amplifier, and he misses with his toe, and he hits it full speed with his chest, and like it knocks the air out of him. And he gets up. And to his credit, stands up, smiles to the crowd, and shrugs, keeps singing. And so about 10 minutes later, he's running across the other side. And right when he gets to the amplifier, he stops and slowly climbs up on it and smiles to the audience. It was pretty good. They did a good job.
Nice. Well, here's to live music.
Yeah, I'm with you. Good call. I look forward to the comments on this one. People with their experiences. I know back then, it was just the golden age. I can't imagine it's ever going to get like that again. I can't imagine any, the TikTok and YouTube and downloads. I think it's probably ruined that.
Yeah, you might be right. And, I got to experience a Charlie Daniels Band Alabama concert, which may not be everybody's genre or thing, but I just can't think of a better night of hearing song after song that you've heard growing up. And it just, I think that was in the mid 80s, maybe late 80s. And it just felt right, and those are the type of things that, they're all dead now. So it could be the passing of a torch.
I don't think anybody from Alabama is dead.
I think we'll Google this after the show.
We'll wrestle for it.
Yeah, okay, you win. They're all alive.
Charlie Daniels checked out, but I think that's the one. Anyway, good call. I know that when we hang up here, when we hang up the microphones for this episode, you and I are both going to think of great concerts we went to that we didn't mention. But that's part of the charm, man.
Yep.
That's part of it. Eddie, thanks for your time, bud.
Anytime, Scott.
That's it. That's the show. Hey, speaking of live music, my youth pastor of many moons ago was featured on a previous episode, has provided the music for this podcast. It's very special to me because it's a song written about childhood memories from the perspective of a guy who was with me while I was forming memories of my own. So what a cool circle. Remember back in the 90s when it was a fad for a while to put a hidden track at the end of a CD for some stupid reason? Well, I might do that today. Full version of the lead-in music is going to play at the end of this. So if you want to stick around and listen, remember, it's very mid-80s prog rock period sounding, and again, perfect for this podcast. These guys are currently in a touring professional grown-up band, Eternal Endgame. You can find a link in the podcast info on both our Facebook page and at the bottom of each episode. As always, thanks for listening. Hit us up on our socials at Free Nights and Weekends. Leave us a comment, drop us a line, or you can leave us a voicemail at the number provided. We listen to them all. We take your suggestions. We haven't used any yet, but we might.
Hey, here's a quick edit now that Eddie's hit the bricks. Turns out Jeff Cook, original founding member of Alabama, died in 2022. I guess he was right. Also, it's worth noting, he died of complications of Parkinson's disease, but not before his 2012 album, Shaken Not Stirred. Well done.
My youthful days